there. Welcome to episode 3 of the Retro Game Club podcast. This week, we're going to be talking about Nintendo to PC Engine conversions. I'm Hugh, and joining me is Rob.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm great. Just great. Finally getting a little bit of warm weather. So we don't plan to start every episode complaining about Midwest weather. It's just the way it's been going.
But it's been brutal, yeah.
Yeah. So what have you been up to?
I finally finished Wonder Boy Dragon's Trap, and it was worth getting through it. First time I ever finished it on Switch. Mm-hmm. First time I ever finished it ever, but it was on the Switch. And I actually only had the last boss left, and I waited a week to do it because I thought I was only halfway through the game. But yeah, pretty fun ending, pretty fun game. I do not know what I'm going to hit next.
I was going to ask if they made the last boss harder, because I remember it being pretty easy, but if you haven't played the first game, I guess you wouldn't know.
It was stupid easy.
Okay.
And again, I know I said this in the last episode, I think I'm the only person that played it in 8-bit mode. Like 8-bit plus the new sound.
Yeah.
And, really charming. I don't think I need to go back through it again, but, so if any listeners have any games they think I should check out, because I have a stack of games, so if you list a game for me, I probably have it, but it'll make me actually play it.
Yeah.
How about you? What have you been up to?
Well, I went to Universal Studios with my kids to get out of the cold weather for a few days. There's a holiday that's literally only celebrated in the Chicago area, so my kids had 4-day weekends, so we snuck out for a little bit. Not a lot of video game stuff there. I don't know. I know like Universal at some point is doing a Nintendo Land. There's no evidence that that's going on in Florida. I think it might be a Japan-only thing.
Is that the one with like the Harry Potter universe or whatever? It
is, yeah. Yeah, it has 2 different Harry Potter-themed areas. So if you like Harry Potter stuff, it's pretty cool. And if you like Simpsons stuff, there's a Simpsons Land and that kind of stuff. And then a lot of like movie properties that my kids have no idea what they are.
Like Back to the Future and stuff like that?
Yeah, E.T. was maybe the biggest. Like, they have a big E.T. ride, and, people our age get E.T., but my kids are just like... First of all, the E.T. ride is half not E.T. The E.T. ride sort of feels like... It starts off like E.T., and then, like, you fly back to E.T.'s homeworld, where E.T. has a new set of problems on his homeworld. I didn't mean to turn this into an E.T. discussion.
No, I'm going to pivot it even a bit further. That's almost like when they came out with the Alf cartoon, but it took place on Melmac.
Ugh.
Where he had all these... Yeah, he had like a girlfriend and they ate cats. Yeah. Yeah, so that's really strange. What is his world even like?
It's very trippy. It's, none of the aliens really, of the other people on the planet look like him so much. So, it's bizarre. Like, I feel like there's maybe going to be an E.T. sequel that they pitched, and then someone realized, oh wait, this is terrible. But they'd already committed to the ride at that point. That's the way I feel. Yeah. But in terms of gaming stuff, I recently bought a Sega Genesis EverDrive because I've been working on this Genesis game demo, and I wanted to see if I could actually get it to run on real hardware.
Did you try it yet?
I did. I tried it last night. Yeah, it came in yesterday, and it worked. What had happened is, like, a couple weeks ago, someone tried the demo out and said, hey, yeah, I can't get it to run on actual Genesis hardware. I tried it. He also tried it in an EverDrive. Mm-hmm. And I said, oh, I know what it is. Is that the sound driver I'm using has some like incompatibility with AtGames devices. So stuff like any of the stuff you get at Dollar General, the $30 Genesis clones or the Fire Core, that kind of stuff. If you've played them, you notice the sound is already kind of funky to begin with. And this sound driver that I use, it's called Echo, and maybe we'll feature it as a project sometime. Mm-hmm. It works on the AtGames systems, but it sounds really terrible. But if you do this set of hardware calls, then suddenly it sounds almost as good as real hardware. So I don't know what exactly the commands are doing, but it's forcing something on the AtGames hardware. The problem is those calls crash on an actual Genesis. Emulators seem to just ignore the instructions. Actual Genesis crashes. So I did a rebuild, and now like on my project page where I'm distributing builds, I have like build for Sega Genesis and all other emulators, and then build just for AtGames devices. until I can figure out how to write some code to detect if you're running on an AtGames device and then, execute these instructions. There's got to be some, like, look at this address, or, there's going to be some address you can look at, some bit of memory you can read somewhere that will tell you you're on an AtGames device. I just haven't, I don't want to spend a lot of time debugging that kind of problem if I can avoid it.
Yeah, that's really cool though. So you're pretty far into it, and also you got to own Genesis EverDrive now, which is, I think, my favorite EverDrive. Because you get like Game Gear with it. It plays Master System games too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was mostly excited because, one, I could do run my demo on it, but two, because you can run 32X games on it, assuming you have a 32X, of course.
Yes. Yep.
And I found that most 32X emulators are pretty hit or miss. I mean, some games work fairly well, and a lot of games don't work at all. And of course, with the EverDrive, every 32X game plays perfectly. So I'm a big 32X fan, as dorky as that is. I don't know. I may be the only one.
No, I'm with you, actually. I like it better than the Saturn. I think that's a very not popular opinion.
Got better load times than the Saturn. Mortal Kombat 2 on 32X is better than Mortal Kombat 2 on Saturn.
It has the best version of Space Harrier, if you ask me.
Yeah, it's a good one. I bought that. Geez, that's a game I bought, actually. Speaking of Midwest Gaming Classic coming up, I bought that at Midwest Gaming Classic and actually got a good deal on it, too.
Speaking of which, we'll both be at Midwest Gaming Classic. We will talk about this for the next month until we're actually there.
So there, yeah. Yeah, we're not planning, obviously, any kind of events or anything, but if you can figure out who we are from the crowd. I'm the guy that sort of looks like the kind of guy that would be at Midwest Gaming Classic.
Yeah, and I'll be the shorter version of that guy.
All right, so we got a bunch of news stuff.
Which is good, because our topic is also our game of the week. So
yes. So first off, why almost every Pac-Man player grabbed the left side of the machine?
I love this so much.
I think we both put this on the show notes.
Yep. Yeah.
So it's if you go to the source that we're linking to, like the Kotaku version. I always mispronounce that site name. I'm sorry. And then they have a link out to the source article. And the source article has a lot of photos of people playing Pac-Man in arcades in 1980. And a lot of these arcades, I wish I was there. Just you look at some of these. There's one of these where it's like a Pac-Man parlor. I don't know if you saw that one here.
Mm-hmm.
There's a giant row of Pac-Man machines, and then some of these that are like obviously like roller rinks or kind of family fun centers. These would all be amazing to go back and visit. But anyways, you can see like in every one of them, of these pictures, people are holding the left side of the Pac-Man cabinet and playing Pac-Man with their right hand. Which,
yeah. Since there's no buttons, what do you do with your other hand?
Yeah.
And this is it.
Yeah, it's weird how like most people are right-handed, 90% or something. But most people play games, control a joystick with their left hand, except Pac-Man, this was the first arcade game anybody ever played, so they just by default went with the right hand. Now, when I play Pac-Man, I use my left hand like it's any other arcade game.
Yeah, me too. I think. Now I'm second-guessing myself.
I'm pretty sure if I walked up to a Pac-Man game, I would use my left hand.
But, why I love this is that emulating, for the newest and the next generations of people who are going to be retro gaming and maybe have never even seen a Pac-Man cabinet, they would have never known this was a thing. You would just play it with your gamepad, your 8-bit DOE gamepad or whatever you're using, and not realize that there's certain I guess anthropological. I don't even know what I'm trying to say, but I'm sure you.
There's
all
a
know
sort of
yeah.
It's a sort of group culture thing. Like once you see somebody walking up to the Pac-Man cabinet and playing it that style, you just copy it.
Yeah.
And that's what I think some of this is as well.
And this will probably be one of the few podcasts that people actually enjoy a story like that.
Right.
It's pretty in the deep in the woods in that one. Next one, new wireless controller for Sega Genesis by 8-Bit Dough, which I bought one, and it arrived, and I've tested it out, and it is beautiful.
I think I was going to buy one of these, or is it the one in the next article? It was the next one. Sorry, we have another article about new controllers, and like Amazon was sold out.
This is the M30, and it's great. It feels just like a Saturn controller, so your 6-button Genesis controller, and I was actually just about to test Super Street Fighter 2 with it, and then we decided to record. Yeah. So I may report back a little bit more next episode, but, you know, I tried some 2-button games with it, and it's pretty great. It feels really nice, really well built.
Yeah, it sort of looks like a Saturn controller to me for some reason.
Yeah. And it's I'm trying to find the price here.
I always love when there's like items you buy but you don't remember what you paid for them.
Yeah, it's Amazon, so you're bored on the couch and you're on your phone. You click it and all of a sudden it arrives, and but yeah, it's a very fair price. There's a 2.4 gigahertz version or a Bluetooth version. The 2.4 gigahertz version, I think it just comes with the Genesis adapter.
Yeah, and you probably can't be more than 6 feet away from that. So if you're playing this on like your family room TV, you might be. Yeah, the 2.4 gigahertz stuff usually is kind of short range. Bluetooth version might be 10, 12 feet.
Yeah, and then there's a Bluetooth adapter for an extra $20 for your Genesis if you like. But I'm just using this for RetroArch and MAME, and I love it. Yeah. I will use it for when I play anything Sega, I've decided. And next one is
reviews of Retrobit's new Genesis and Saturn controllers. So this is the one. I was planning to order one of these because my Genesis controllers are generally getting kind of worn out. But I missed it. Somehow they were sold out on Amazon. I don't know if they're back in stock now. And of course, Saturn, the controller that came with the Saturn, is notoriously breakable. So if you own a Saturn, chances are you already are using a third-party controller.
Now, we should say that this is an actual controller. It's not USB or Bluetooth.
Yes.
It's actually for the hardware.
Yeah, and it is actually licensed by Sega, too.
I didn't realize that. I didn't even think about it. It says Sega on it, yeah. But
they have the actual Sega seal of quality on it. And yeah, as of right now, the 6-button arcade pad, which looks nearly identical to the one you would have bought in 1993, is currently sold out. They also have like transparent plastic ones, and of course Sega Saturn ones. I think, let me see here. And they have USB variants of these as well. So if you wanted to, for whatever reason, you wanted a Saturn controller hooked up to your computer.
I mean, the M30, what we just talked about, is pretty much that. So if anyone listening buys this, please send us a quick review.
Yeah, now I have a whole stack of boxed Saturn analog pads. You know, the giant ones? The things that are like the size of a waffle iron. And I bought a whole bunch of those. This was years and years when like eBay was fairly new. So I was looking for some Saturn controllers, again, because my Saturn controller was broken, because the original Saturn controller is bad. I worked in a game store, at this time, and nearly every Saturn we bought, someone came in and demanded that the joystick be replaced, or the controller be replaced, because it broke within the first month they owned it. So that was a kind of a chronic problem. And yeah, I went on eBay, and I'm looking for these Saturn pads, and I saw someone was selling like just a whole bunch, 4 or so, of these analog sticks, or not sticks, the analog waffle iron controller. And the guy had really low feedback score. So I'm like, I don't know. They were really cheap though. It was like $20 for 4 joysticks. And then his feedback score was all like, took 3 months to ship. When I contacted him, he had some story about like his father just died and he couldn't, ship stuff. So I'm like, you know what? I'll take a risk. And I order them. And yeah, it took the guy like 3 months to ship them to me. And then he sent me an email like, oh yeah, sorry, my father just died. And it's like, oh, really? That's just his thing, I guess.
Wow, yeah. Maybe he had a few dads. I don't know.
Maybe it was I don't know. I think he just was probably really lazy. And
Are you talking about the 3D controller that was for Knights, or is this a different
the one like for Knights?
Okay.
It has a D-pad on it, and then it has the analog stick on it, and I can't emphasize how large this controller is. All right, so Raspberry Pi has sold 25 million units.
To put that in perspective, the most recently ranking third most selling computer is the C64 Commodore 64, which sold 17 million.
Wow.
Raspberry Pi knocked it down. The Amiga 500 only sold 6 million, and the Apple II, all variants combined, only sold 6 million.
Yeah, that number is shocking to me. I really thought Apple II sold a lot more, but different time. The computer wasn't in every house back then, so maybe it just seemed like they were everywhere if you knew a few people who had one.
And also, these are $35, so people, have them and everything now.
Oh yeah, I have bought in my life a total of 3 Raspberry Pis.
Yeah, me too. And I only use one at a time, so I have no idea why I have 3.
I have 3 because when the Model 3 came out, they messed up my order. So the site, like when the day the Model 3 launched, the site kept crashing. And so I got to check out, clicked finish or whatever, and then I got an error page. And I never got an email receipt, nothing. So I waited a day, and then I went back and ordered it again. And then 4 weeks later, 2 of them arrived. So at that point, I figured I'll figure something to do with 2 of them.
But yeah, I can't wait for the Raspberry Pi 4 to come out, so then I can order a few of those too.
Yeah. I think we maybe talked about that. I think I was mistaken. I think a couple weeks ago I said, "Oh yeah, Pi 4 is coming out soon." And what it really was is I saw an article talking about what the Pi 4 might potentially look like. And of course,
it probably is coming out soon, a few months.
Could be, yeah. I mean, it could be a year. I don't know. And there's so many different competitors now too.
Yeah.
So
what do we got next?
See here this is translation news. Panorama Cotton translated to English. So this was
the Saturn game, right?
Well, this was on a bunch of different systems. This is the Genesis version that's translated here.
You think I would have Googled this before the show?
No, it's all right. Well, they made games. I want to say this. This was on a few different systems. I don't think any version has ever officially been released in the U.S.
Mega Drive. That's all Wikipedia says is Mega Drive.
Yeah, so what am I confusing this with?
So Panorama Cotton came out right before Cotton 2 Magical Night Dreams, which Cotton 2 was on Saturn.
Okay. So there's the arcade version from 91. This is the Genesis version, or Mega Drive version from 94 that's been translated. This is where I got mixed up.
Yeah, I heard this one is good. The only Cotton game I've played was the first one for PC Engine.
Yeah, I think it was PC Engine CD that came out on.
Yeah, which I actually owned back in the day, and if I had it now, I could probably pay off my mortgage because they are worth so much.
Yeah. Some PC Engine shooters are pretty cheap, but others are insane. I don't know what the logic is behind why some PC Engine games are super expensive and others aren't. I mean, I know some of it has to do with games where you don't have to learn Japanese. More people want them, so they're going to be a little more expensive. But every now and then I see some game that like Double Dragon 2 is one where Double Dragon 2 for PC Engine is one of the most expensive games out there. And I really can't figure out why, because at the end of the day, it's still Double Dragon 2.
Exactly, yeah. And next was yours also, the MultiBoy 32.
Yeah, so over on planetvb.com, they have an article about a new Virtual Boy multi-cart. So it's a cart that has an SD card slot, similar to the EverDrive. And it sounds more or less, it's not an EverDrive, but it's extremely similar to one. And it's a little pricey, but if you're hardcore into Virtual Boy, I guess the price is probably not important. They're expecting it to be $150 when they start taking orders. So this is an announcement of, hey, I've designed this thing and I'm going to start making it soon.
So, I mean, how many Virtual Boy games are there even? I didn't think there were that many.
No, because like the Angry Video Game Nerd, when he did the Virtual Boy episode, he did every Virtual Boy game in it. So it was in the 15 to 20 range.
So this is a convenience thing if you're a Virtual Boy fan. I did play with... There was I forget what it's called, but where you could load a game in a ROM and then actually play it on your Virtual Boy, but it was really annoying because you could only put one game on there at a time.
Yeah, so more like a flash card.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. My buddy bought it thinking it was a multi-card, and he was really, really annoyed at his purchase when I went to set it up for him and told him there really is no setup. You have to do this work every time.
So if Planet Virtual Boy is a good source for Virtual Boy information, there are 22 games, including Japanese exclusives.
It's not many.
And then a lot of tech demos and a lot of unreleased games, including an unreleased version of GoldenEye, which might actually have been fun.
So did you work at the game store when Virtual Boy was out?
Yeah, I was there when it launched and was discontinued. You didn't have to work there long to do both of those.
Yeah.
And
few months.
Yeah.
Did you have a puke bucket next to the floor model so when people tried it out they could
No, we were told not to allow children under 10 to use the demo unit. I remember that very well because they thought it could cause eye damage if your eyes weren't fully developed.
Wow.
Yeah, this is a real warning that they gave us. And eventually we threw it all out. We had some, like, I have a little bit of Virtual Boy merchandise lying around. Like, we had giveaway hats and stuff like that. One of my regrets, I have a long list of, like, regrets of stuff, like, I saw and then I didn't buy. But I was in a Blockbuster not long after the Virtual Boy was discontinued. And they just had a clearance bin of, like, every Virtual Boy game ever made for $5 a piece.
Yeah, at that point, just pick them up and have them.
Yeah, I should have put those in a warehouse. So that was a mistake. But yeah, we had the demo unit, and people didn't play it long. The only game we ever had in there was Red Alarm, and it was like kind of caged into the system. Like it was, you'd have like a key and a crowbar and stuff just to get the cartridge in and out. So we never changed it.
Well, if there's any Virtual Boy fans out there that ends up buying this, please write us and let us know what you think of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the Virtual Boy is kind of a neat novelty system. I like playing it on emulators because you don't get eye strain. And there are a couple games, some point we'll probably talk about it. I think there are a few games that are worth playing on it.
Yeah, I've never played one, so I'm open for it.
Oh, speaking of new games, I got an email from Piko Interactive, as probably many other people did, saying they have 12 new games for pre-order. Sega Genesis.
I was going through these. They're quality games.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, Piko Interactive, I think, is a really good company. I mean, they've done some weird things, like they did the plug-and-play Wisdom Tree system, which is nothing wrong with it. It's just kind of a weird thing to do. Somehow, I think they just got the license to those games and said, hey, somebody's going to want this.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a lot of, I don't know all of these games, but I've heard of a few of them. And yeah, I think these are all, these are all pretty good games. Some of them are like Amiga conversions for Genesis. So this one, Switchblade, is an Amiga port, which isn't too hard. Tin Head on Super Nintendo looks like a pretty good kind of Mega Man-y style game.
That 40 Winks game for Nintendo 64 looks really fun.
Yeah.
It looks really well done. Like, how did they do this? Was it a game that was already made for something, or...
Well,
I don't
what
know.
I'm thinking, there's something that seems, this is a result of me not doing homework before recording. I thought this was a game that was started and not finished, and that they worked on, yeah, so they did a Kickstarter last year. There we go. So this was a game originally developed by GT Interactive, and it eventually was released on PlayStation, it sounds like. And then they did Piko Interactive did a Kickstarter for the development of or the completement, if that's a word, of the Nintendo 64 version.
That's really cool. Yeah. I might have to pick this up. That's really cool. And 12 games all at once for pre-order.
Yeah.
That's pretty ballsy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they can pull it off. I mean, they've launched all kinds of games in the past.
Yeah, they're a trustable company. Next, we got a non-game news item, but I just thought it was really cool in terms of coding. Microsoft open sources the Windows calculator.
Yeah, we actually talked about this in my office even when this went around, because most of the development team I work with was amazed how large the source code is for Windows Calculator.
I thought the same thing.
Yeah, but you have to think through, like, Microsoft, everything they do has a lot of localization in accessibility requirements. So systems you're working on might not have those same requirements. So when suddenly you have to support every language and, again, accessibility, like having actual good quality accessibility, it's a lot of work. So even something as simple as calculator is a lot of work.
And I just think it's cool that they're doing this, and, you know, people don't realize how much they support open source. Microsoft's one of the biggest contributors to Linux code.
Yeah.
And they put a lot of money into it, and, you know, this isn't the Microsoft of the past. This isn't Ballmer or Gates. You know, it just seems like a whole new company that's really doing some cool stuff.
Yeah, and they're doing it all under MIT source code also. So it means the stuff is, you know, you have to include, if you're going to use the code, you can use it. You just have to include, you know, the correct comment text about where it came from. But there's no restrictions. I mean, if you decide, hey, I've got a program and I need to know how to do binary to hex conversion, because that's in calculator, right? You can just go ahead and rip their algorithm right out.
Yeah, or if you just say, you know what, the only thing keeping me from switching to Linux is I love the Windows calculator.
Right.
It's a deal breaker. Well, you could just use Mono and port it over. That would actually be a pretty fun project, pretty silly project.
Yeah.
Not for this show.
It would be hard because, like, the .NET part of this is mostly wrapper. So the real guts are all seems to be C++, which probably cross-compiles pretty well, but not always.
Yeah, especially once you're getting into some GUI stuff.
Yeah, and I didn't go through the code yet to see, like, how much of this relies on calls to Windows things. Like, maybe every time it does addition, it calls the, you know, some Windows DLL that you've never heard of.
Yeah.
That's a maybe extreme example, but you get what I'm saying. Like, this could be tied somewhat to the Windows stack. I just haven't. I just started looking through and said, yeah, that sure is a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Add that to a list of projects I'll never do.
Yes.
In another port, strangest Game Boy emulator we've ever seen. And if you use Linux or in open source, you probably know the Emacs text editor. And now you can emulate a Game Boy within it.
Yes, if that was a thing you wanted to do.
And that's kind of what I thought, too. It just seems like...
Because maybe you want to look like you're working, but no, it still would look like a Game Boy game, wouldn't it?
Exactly, yeah. Again, it's just someone did this because he could, and I think that's pretty cool. But
Yeah, that's true. I do admire projects that are just, here's a really crazy thing that has no practical purpose whatsoever, but I just want to see if it's possible. So yeah, I can respect that.
now I just Googled. Here we go. Wait, let me see if this actually worked. It doesn't look like anyone has ported Doom to Emacs yet. Because Doom is the thing you port to everything. Yeah. So, bunch of slackers out there. We got Game Boy before Doom on Emacs.
Great, now you've got me looking for a list of Doom. Hold on, you can hear me typing. Source ports. Yeah, I know it's on. I joke all the time about it. It'll be on your microwave one day.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, there's a BOS port of Doom. Now, there's something useless. There's a Zune port of Doom? I didn't know there was a controller for Zune.
Yeah, how would that work?
Was there a version of Zune that had a controller built in? I thought it was like it's an iPod-y kind of thing with like one... I thought it had... Well, I was going to use the Apple right Circle, but I thought it was just a simple controller.
Oh, it looks like there was a Zune that had a touchpad like an iPod Touch.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what it is. Not as impressive.
Yeah, it's still impressive feat, because I can imagine that's definitely a labor of love project, because I don't think I've ever even seen a Zune in person.
Yeah. And still, I think it's a bit cooler than Game Boy Emacs.
All right, and last up, unseen NES game found. So
yeah, I posted this one. I'm sure it came up on your RSS feed also. But yeah, it's a wrestling game. I watched the whole video of it. I didn't even look for a ROM of it. But it looks like a pro wrestling type game.
Yeah.
You have Ric Flair in there, Road Warrior, Sting.
Yeah, they said a ROM will be forthcoming. I saw that somewhere in the article here.
But it's a pretty cool game. You know, you could get outside of the wrestling ring and you know, beat each other up out there, which I don't know if you can do in pro wrestling for NES.
Not the Nintendo Pro Wrestling. That's definitely not in there. I have to go back and look at some of the later wrestling games to see which ones support that. At least one's got to do that. I thought regular pro wrestling didn't do that, or maybe you could go outside the ring, but there wasn't really any real purpose to it.
But the sound in this is good. The graphics are fine, you know, for the time. Definitely worth looking into.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And as soon as the ROM leaks, everyone will play it. And I think I can figure, like, they have a screenshot here of like the roster, but they don't have names on any of them. And I think I can tell who each one is supposed to be.
Well, I looked at the video and it looked like maybe they were just not totally finished yet. A lot of the sprites look exactly the same, and they're supposed to be different wrestlers.
Yeah, that was pretty common for games of this era, though, where you'd have portraits that had a face, and then all the sprites were more or less like you have what I believe is Bobby Eaton, Stan Lane, and Barry Windham on the bottom here, on the bottom row. And I could imagine their sprites all being the same. And you could even maybe use the Ric Flair sprite with just a different palette for those guys.
Which is kind of what it looked like they did.
Yeah, the only guy is the guy with the red hair and red beard. I can't tell who they... There's never any wrestler that I can think of that looked like that. It maybe looks like Ronnie Garvin, but... Not Ronnie Garvin, the other one, Jimmy Garvin. They they were not related as far as I know. And... I think that's who it's supposed to be, but he definitely wasn't a redhead. But he had dark hair, and maybe with the black background, you couldn't see it, so they went with red.
Yeah, it's weird how that first screen is kind of black and white. But if you are interested in any of these links, they're always in our show notes. That's why we don't always give credit while we're talking to the people who wrote these articles. It's because they're in our show notes.
Yeah. Yes. So, I'm trying to think what game this reminds me of. All right, we can move on.
You know what the graphics remind me of is Yi Are Kung Fu. Maybe a little bit better than that.
Yeah, I can see that.
But yeah, should we move on to Game Club and topic of the week?
Yes. So we're going to talk about the Nintendo, 8-bit Nintendo to PC Engine conversions. And there were more of these than I thought. So you can find these out on the internet. From what I've seen, the best place to get them actually at this point is archive.org. Because like the original site they were posted on doesn't have them up anymore. I think maybe they got a letter from Nintendo saying, hey, knock this off. That would be my immediate theory.
Just to be totally clear, these are PC Engine, Nintendo NES games on TurboGrafx or PC Engine. That's all they are.
Yeah, they've been recompiled, and because again, like I know it's called TurboGrafx 16, but the CPU it runs is maybe not identical to the CPU that's in the NES, but they're the same hardware family. I think they're both 6502 variants.
Yep.
So, and it's a lot like there's a lot of Jaguar games that are just Genesis recompilations because the Jaguar had 64-bit plastered all over the place, but it was running a Motorola 68000 CPU.
Yeah, just a few of them instead of just one.
Yeah, and then it had like some custom, some other like custom, hardware, like video and sound chips, that kind of stuff.
So the games I have are Castlevania, Contra, DuckTales 2, Jackal, Mega Man 1, Mega Man 2, Ninja Gaiden, Robo Warrior. I have two different Robo Warriors. R-Type 2, which is not real, it's just a demo, and Super Mario Brothers. And I focus on Super Mario Brothers, Jackal, and Contra, just because I really know those games the most in this list. And I tried contacting the guy who did this, and I got a return to sender on the email. I even tried, I was kind of cyber stalking the dude. So if you're listening, sorry. I found him on a few forums, tried messaging him there, and got no response. But, sometimes, how often you go on these forums, maybe, he'll see the messages in 6 months or something. But my questions for him was, I was reading some of his blogs, and it seemed like the audio was the hardest part of this, and it was really an emulator. So he didn't change the code of the assembler code of the NES game to map it to the PC Engine chips in code. He added an emulator to it. And in his blogs, you could see that was difficult because there was only so much memory that he could use.
Yeah, and that, like I would say, overall, these are really good conversions, but the audio, you can tell, is off on all of them.
Sometimes painfully.
Yeah, sometimes you have to play with the sound off. Yes.
Yeah, the Mario Brothers, definitely noticeable. Contra had a few weird things, but it seemed pretty close to me. Jackal was pretty close, too.
Yeah, so the ones I played the most were Castlevania, and then I ended up playing Jackal a lot, too, because I was really surprised how good that one came across.
I played that for a long time. Simply because, I just love that game, and it worked perfectly, really.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised how good that game turned out. Of all the conversions, I think that's the one that is by far the best. You kind of have to give R-Type a pass. It's like they started working on it, but it doesn't have like enemies. You're essentially just flying the ship through the levels. So it's just strictly a demo. It looks great, but wasn't finished. The Mega Man games, I'm terrible at Mega Man, so I'm even worse when it's Mega Man on a different system.
Yeah, I just brought those up, and it just seemed like a project in its own to play Mega Man. So,
So what I was really impressed with, like I said, Jackal was great. So that's an overhead shooter game, kind of reminiscent of Heavy Barrel, I guess. Though Heavy Barrel came out after it, where you're driving a Jeep. Jeep has two weapons. It has a gun that always shoots up. So it's you can move the Jeep any direction, but the gun always shoots up on the screen. And then you have a grenade that is whatever direction the Jeep is facing. And you're rescuing hostages and that kind of stuff. And it's pretty fun.
Yeah, I think it's a great game. Yeah, you rescue the hostages, you drop them off in a helicopter, and they get away, and you could accidentally shoot them. And the grenade, you could upgrade into a missile launcher that takes care of more enemies at once. And what surprised me most about this project is that one day I'm sure we'll do the same kind of topic of the episode and have it be NES to 7800. And in those, they tried to, since the 7800 theoretically had better graphics than the NES, it just had worse sound, they tried to upgrade the graphics and show its capabilities, to show what could have been. These were straight ports. They didn't try to show the TurboGrafx 16's 16-bit color palette, you know.
I would say Ninja Gaiden seems to be the only one where I would argue that one. I mean, I have to go back and play it again. Maybe it's been too long since I played Ninja Gaiden on the NES, but I thought that actually looked better on the TurboGrafx than the NES. I thought maybe they did something with that.
I'll go back and check that one out.
Like you said with Mega Man, Ninja Gaiden for me is a game where that's an entire project. Like I have to dedicate a lot of time to playing Ninja Gaiden because I'm absolutely terrible at it.
Yeah, it's a bucket list game for me to actually beat that whole series.
Oh yeah, I think it's unlikely I will ever try and beat that whole series.
I've only beat number 2. I thought you beat Ninja Gaiden 64.
Yeah, Ninja Gaiden 64. That's the only one. So, with the bats with knives or whatever was in there.
Yeah, I forget.
So, the other one, the Castlevania port, was, I also thought, very good.
Yeah, that was pretty right on. Contra was very good, too. Castlevania, I only played, I think, the first episode, just because, the first day I went through, just so I said I could play, I played every one of them, and then I went through to the games I just felt like playing again. And nothing wrong with Castlevania, it just wasn't one of them. Contra, on the other hand, Contra actually went back and played for a long time because right after we decided to do this, I met up with a buddy, and he just happened to mention to me that, the other night I, for the first time, played Contra all the way through without dying even once.
Ooh.
And I've never done that.
I would call
that seems
shenanigans
crazy.
on that, yeah.
No, I believe it just because he was really adamant about it, but I will report back because I will make him show me one day. But that was one reason where I'm like, oh, maybe I could do that. And of course, I died before the first boss.
Yeah. No, you cannot. I died on the first screen, really. Yeah.
But, there's those certain games that, you played them so much when you were a kid because you didn't have many games at the time. You just left that cartridge in and it just became second nature to you. So, I don't know. Who knows? People beat Punch-Out blindfolded now.
Yeah, I can't beat Punch-Out. Maybe I would do better at Punch-Out blindfolded. Maybe not seeing what the sprites are doing would help.
Yeah.
I wonder if I just played it off audio cues if I would do better.
Only one way to find out.
All right. Any of these others? Super Mario Brothers was another one that I thought there was something kind of weird. Like, I don't know how to put it. Like, it felt like the screen was cut off on Super Mario Brothers. Did you get that feeling from it?
Mine had lines at the top, so I almost thought if maybe it was the opposite. It was hard to tell for me, but when you jumped from the steps to get on the flagpole.
Yeah.
Was that glitchy? Or am I just horrible at Super Mario Brothers now?
No, that part was fine. What I noticed was like the bottom. Like normally there's like, I don't know how to put it. It seemed like Mario was almost running on the bottom edge of the screen, and there wasn't like, you didn't see the whole floor underneath him. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I guess
Yeah,
maybe,
I
and this
think I
could
do
be
remember
like your
that.
mileage may vary based on the emulator too.
Yeah. I was using the, how do you pronounce it? Heigen?
Okay. Now I do
Yeah.
almost everything on the Ouya.
Oh, I'm sorry. That would be if it was actually NES. I was just using whatever the PCE Beetle X or whatever it's called. So that's probably the same emulator you were using. I think that's what the Ouya uses for that.
PC dot. It's called PCE.EMU, and I don't know what it's derived from. Yeah, I don't know if I don't think it's in a. I mean, I think it's based off one of the other. PCE.EMU it's based on Mednafen using the Imagine engine.
Okay, so we are using totally different emulators.
Yes.
Which, hey, that's good. We probably should have planned that anyway, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and again, that's my kind of favorite way to emulate stuff is on the Ouya. I really think what that system is best for.
Yeah, and it's pretty much plug and play. I don't have many other things to say about this other than it was fun playing those games, and I can't believe this guy spent all this time. If you read his blog, he spent years doing this, like 2 years doing it. And, near the end of it, he pretty much said, hey guys, I have other hobbies that have nothing to do with video games or coding. He sounded like us where he codes during the day too.
Yeah.
So, he wanted to get back to literally anything else.
Yeah, I can understand that. I mean, there have been projects that I've scrapped just because it was way too much time commitment and no longer fun.
Yeah. But yeah, you have any other closing thoughts on?
No, I think
NES
these
to
are
PC?
completely worth the effort to track down and play.
We do have some listener feedback about them. Majors wrote in and said he's a TurboGrafx guy. That's really cool, Majors. So am I. And he thought of these as more of a novelty. Mm-hmm. He has a story about him. He would bring a bunch of the consoles to conventions and let people play them, and he was kind of annoyed that because the EverDrive would be in the PC Engine or TurboGrafx, and people that would walk up to play it would quite often go to these games because they have nostalgic value for them instead of playing something new. You know, some of the many great games on the PC Engines. And he does have some pictures for us, and we'll try to throw those up someplace.
Yeah, we might have social media accounts. I don't know. I blocked all social media sites on my router. So
yes, we do have a Facebook page. So if you just search in Facebook for Retro Game Club, we'll throw those up there. And Majors, if somehow we forget, please throw them up there.
Yes, yeah. I think I don't remember, so he's brought these to Midwest Gaming Classic, and I don't remember seeing these conversions there. Maybe it was after he got annoyed and took them out because everybody was playing them.
Well, because you could hit select and run, what he's saying is the people would hit select and run, they would figure that out or see someone else do it, and then pick a different game from the EverDrive, and they would see NES games in there, and then someone else would see it.
Yeah. And that's completely the opposite of what I do. So at Midwest Gaming Classic or any other gaming convention where there's stuff out to try, I'm going to go immediately for something I haven't played before.
But he is known to load up Jackal from time to time.
Well, it's a good one. Yeah, I don't know why you would go to a gaming convention and then want to play Super Mario Brothers. I mean, do you not have that in your house?
Yeah. Unless someone brought you with them and you aren't really a gamer, and that's just what you recognize and you play.
I get this, the closest analogy I can think of is like, I've gone out to microbreweries with like friends or coworkers, and there's always that one guy that tries to order a Bud Light.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you have to explain to them where they're at.
Yeah. All right. By the way, email address is email@retrogameclub.net. Write that down. Email@retrogameclub.net. So if you want to send us an email, we will almost certainly read it, unless you're just writing to insult us. So Daryl sent in. I want to say thanks for doing the podcast. He's been listening since episode 0, which is good. He can be on that very exclusive list of episode 0 original listeners. And wants to know if we're ever going to upgrade the logo to a jazz disc. I never owned a jazz drive, so I have no nostalgia for jazz drives.
I love zip disk. I had the Z64 Mr. Backup back then, and I was also an audio guy, which jazz disc for some reason, I guess it's because it had so much more space. I think it was a gigabyte. I could be wrong in that. It may have started at 250 meg or something, but yeah, maybe in a few years, in a decade or something, we'll upgrade to jazz.
Yeah, I had a pretty big collection of zip discs at one point, and I got rid of them several years ago when I realized, my criteria is like, if I have a drive that is smaller than my largest SD card, I have to get rid of it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So at some point, whenever I got my first SD card that was more than 100 meg, which I know seems like 1,000 years ago. But when I started getting those, I'm like, well, I'm never going to need these zip disks again. And then I had something important on one of the discs and regretted getting rid of it. Okay. Nothing super important, like some project I didn't finish. Oh, anyways, rest of Daryl's email here. Talking about some of our previous games. He said he wanted to thank us for picking Wings of Fury because he has fond memories of playing the DOS version on a 386. He said it felt very immersive, because it had features like the carrier would bob up and down on the waves, kind of realistic, and the animation of the Hellcat turning kind of felt like you were doing a real advanced maneuver. Since we didn't play the DOS version, he was talking about like the zoom mechanics, that kind of stuff, which I don't remember. I played the Game Boy version. I don't remember zooming.
It does that. So when you fly up past the clouds in all versions, it zooms out. So you could see how high you are, then you see the clouds, and you see the ground. And then when you get lower to the ground, it kind of zooms in, and the sprite's bigger. The sprite of like your jet is bigger.
Oh.
Or your airplane and all the tanks and stuff.
Well, I'm gonna have to try it again because I did not do that. I figured you couldn't go up off the top of the screen.
Yeah, it's mostly because sometimes you have to fly pretty far to go bombing somebody, and so it lets you go a bit faster, I think, that way, maybe. Or it's harder for them to shoot you down.
Yeah, or if you're trying to travel across more quickly or, something, I guess, yeah. All right, so, and of course he talks about playing on a keyboard and PC speaker, which had to sound amazing. That was a little bit sarcasm.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you for that email. And Majors wrote us a second time. This is actually his first email. The other one was his second email, but it was about the game, so we read it first. He's been using Laka for years, and Laka was the RetroArch Linux that we talked about a few episodes ago. Yeah, and he finds it super easy, and it could run off a thumb drive, and yeah, it's just the easiest way to go. And it's pretty lightweight, so, even on the an old netbook, it could easily run your 8-bit, 16-bit gen systems. And what else is he saying here? Yeah, hook it up to a large TV with S-Video and have that old school look. And pro tip, though, on the version 2, it defaults to a newer front end. It almost looks like the menu for PlayStation 3. It's really nice, but if you're on a older system, it might not even work. And he also played Sherlock Holmes, And he bought it back in the day because, like me, he was a TurboGrafx guy. And he liked the quotes, air quotes, movie quality graphics, which really, what were they, like 240? Not even.
But for 1991, it was pretty amazing to see.
Yeah, yep. But he sold it and bought it a second time thinking, because it was cheap, and he still didn't really get into it, just like I didn't either. He did enjoy Murder Club a bit more in terms of FMV games.
Murder Club is not is there FMV in Murder Club? I've only played the very beginning of it.
Oh, I'm sorry. He enjoys it mainly due to the absence of FMV.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, I didn't know if I just didn't play far enough. But I started Murder Club, which was it was almost exactly a year ago. It was sometime in winter last year. And I played probably half an hour into it, and I realized, like, this is going to be a really big time commitment. So I'm going to do it later. And then I didn't. I mean, it's a game you have to have a notepad with you, because there's just, you get so much information thrown at you in that game. And there's, like, multiple mysteries going on. Like, there's one mystery you're trying to solve, but then there seems to be, like, a second mystery in the background that maybe it's related, maybe not. I really enjoyed it. I just was like, I got to find a time when I can just actually sit and play this thing for 8 hours uninterrupted.
Yeah, it's the reason why I really couldn't get into Sherlock Holmes this time, is you really need to focus for a few hours. And, at this point in my life, not happening. But he also enjoyed he remembers seeing videos of Wings of Fury in action, maybe at Babbage's, which that could be possible. I think in early Babbage's or Electronics Boutique, they sold Apple II GS games, and whoever published that game was really pushing it hard near the end of Apple II GS's lifetime. So thanks, Majors, for both those emails.
Benjamin sent us one about the place in Manhattan we talked about. Not so much recycling center, but the place with the vintage electronics. He said he's been there a couple of times. He said a friend told him about it, but his friend had the false impression it was a recycling and retail facility. So he was very upset when he first got there and found out that almost nothing in their inventory was available for purchase. And then he said he's been there to get... He said the last time he was there was for a performance piece by a Japanese artist who had a residency there. That has got to be wild, whatever that was.
Yeah.
And he said they do have a retail area in front that's mostly newer stuff, like computers and computer accessories. And then some very common video games and hardware. So he said he's picked up some very common Game Boy games there.
Yeah, they probably pick up so much stuff that, like, how many of a certain game do you need, to have in stock?
Yeah. Well, right, yeah, they don't need... I'm sure they have 50 copies of Super Mario Brothers or something and put the rest out for sale. And then he sent us some photos, which, if we have a social media page, and so do you can see them, I hope.
We will work this out. Working out the details.
Yeah. It's difficult because I sound very, like, on a high horse about this, but I was like, sometime last year I said, I'm never doing any social media again.
Yeah, and the best days of my life are the days I'm not on Facebook, so you have made a wise choice.
Now, I understand why people like I get some of the appeals to it. I don't think there's... I don't think anyone is doing something bad or unwise. I just decided it wasn't for me.
But yeah, we will sort those out. Thank you for that email. And Zach writes us just saying he enjoys the new podcast, and he says that I sound like Harris Whittles, which he says is a good thing. So Harris Whittles, he is a comedian. I think he founded is the wrong word, created Parks and Recs. And he passed away a few years ago. He was supposed to be, at the time, the fourth funniest person alive.
Or is he really dead and not hosting a retro gaming podcast?
Yeah. Well, it's crazy that he picks this person out, because I actually have a few friends. I have randomly famous friends probably like 10 of them now. And actual friends, not like people I stalk or something. And I know at least 3 people that worked with Harris. So yeah, it's a compliment, and I'm sure I actually posted about this comment on my Facebook page to see my other friends react. So I will take it as a compliment. He was a cool dude, very funny dude. And yeah, thank you for that email, Zach.
All right, so on our next episode, what games are we going to be talking about?
I have picked out Bonk's Revenge because, for the 9th time this episode I'm saying this, I was a TurboGrafx kid. I never owned Bonk's Revenge. I had 1 and 3, and 1 really just... I mean, I could go and beat that game with almost... You know, I'll only die a few times. But it's just so nostalgic for me, and this is a game I've always wanted to beat, and to see if it holds the same. I know I said I haven't really played it when I was younger, but to see if it holds up with the nostalgic factor, just being in the same franchise.
Yeah, this is a game I play probably once a year still, and I also talk about it a little bit on the next episode. But I mean, I think this ranks up there with the Mario games in terms of best platformers of its generation. I prefer to the Bonk game, or not Bonk, Sonic games. I really will take Bonk's Revenge over any of the Sonic games. That's not a knock on the Sonic games. I just think Bonk's Revenge is absolutely the best game in that series, and again, one of the I don't know, top 5 16-bit platformers.
Absolutely, yeah, yep. And what's your game?
I'm gonna go with Bust a Move, or any variant of that you would like to play. There's a lot of them.
Oh my god, yeah. I own, I actually have the SVT cart. SVT was the Sega Saturn's arcade board. The SVT cart for Bust a Move 4, I want to say. And then I have a Neo Geo 4-slot cabinet, an actual arcade cabinet, that always has Bust a Move again. So I'll probably do the Bust a Move again.
All right. Yeah, I just played through Bust a Move on Nintendo DS of all things. And
oh, wow.
It was Square Enix. You know, they have their, I don't know how Square Enix is selling Bust a Move games, but for whatever reason they are. And they do their annual, like, Black Friday sale, and that was like $5.
Oh, wow.
So I picked that up, and also the 3DS Bust a Move game. And Bust a Move, pretty much at least once a month, I play some variant of Bust a Move. So
yeah, it's well, I mean, we'll obviously talk about this next episode, but you could get in, get out, you know, spend 5 minutes, spend 3 hours. Yeah. That music is tattooed to your brain.
Yeah, great game. So if you want to share your memories of either of these games, it is email@retrogameclub.net. And we will read your email on the show when we talk about these games. And don't know what project and stuff we're doing on the next episode, but we will figure it out before then.
Yeah, and if you like our podcast, please rate us on whatever platform you're listening to. We don't have Patreon. We plan on never making or asking for money from this. We just do it because it's an excuse to talk about retro games. So that helps us kind of get up on other people's radars. If you just shoot us a quick rating. Yeah,
on iTunes. I think we're on all the expected platforms by now. Not iHeartRadio, because they I don't know. They have some rule about your podcast has to be at least 6 months old before they'll put it on there. I guess that's their version of quality control. So
yeah.
But other stuff, again, iTunes ratings would be great. Google Podcasts, whatever, wherever you get the show from, doesn't matter. Yep. All right. Any last words?
No, thank you so much for listening, and see you next episode.
Yep. Thanks, everyone.